शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So we were looking at Padma Purana. Padma Purana almost was towards the end. So we are almost at the end of Padma Purana. Those who have missed out the previous sessions, please refer to the recordings. Okay. So Padma Purana, a few topics are remaining. So we'll just look at that and then we conclude. So basically there is an important topic, or you can say an incident in Padma Purana which talks about the marriage of Gauri. So Gauri Kalyanam, that we, the famous song that we sing, or goddess Gauri, how she marries Lord Shiva, and why Devi Gauri is always associated with auspiciousness or good married, long life, good marriage, and so on. For this story comes in the Padma Purana. So basically, what happens is all the gods they pray to the Lord, and they, just as we do a lot of prayers. You are the savior of this entire world. You are the head. You are the Kala. You are destiny. This that, like this, different prayers they keep doing. At that time, it so happened that Brahma. Now Brahma only he talks about all this, and Brahma and Indra they are having all this conversation about the goddess who lives in the Himalaya mountains. That is goddess Parvati, about Lord Shiva who has a moon on his head, who has a jeta, and so on. So like this, there are different conversations that are taking place between the gods. So at this time, it's he says at that time Himalaya, the father of Gauri or the father of Parvati, he says that there are, though the process of creation has been done, there are a lot of flaws in it, he says. Flaws in the sense there are certain places where things have gone wrong. So basically, like, only man is ruling the world, ladies are not being respected. Then because ladies are not being respected much, the population, even today, if you see, the male ratio is more, right? The male population ratio is more than the female ratio. So, though females also are born, still males are more because initially the number of males was more. So, till date, at least, we are not able to balance that ratio that is there. Of course, now in the course of time, little it is started reducing, but still, the male ratios, at least till date, is still higher. So therefore, this Himavan saw this then itself. He was the father of a daughter, so obviously he felt, and he said that if girls are not respected, women are not respected, then progeny, that is, family also will not grow further, and like this, there'll be a lot of problems. So it is better that the females are also given a good place, a good respectable place in the society, and therefore he said that like my daughter. I want a daughter who has a husband and who has very good sons, and thus, if such a thing happens, then I'll be very, very happy. And that's how the marriage of Gauri takes place. And listening to all this, like this, he was feeling very bad, and Narada was hearing to all this. So Narada said that don't just keep talking about sad things always. If you keep thinking sad, you keep talking about sad things, only sad things will happen. Instead of that, you look about good things. And you tell that now Himavan, he had many daughters. Out of that, one was Parvati. So obviously, he was worried about them, how they will get married, and so on. And therefore, Narada says that you don't get worried at all. Lord Mahadeva, Lord Shiva himself is going to marry your daughter, so you don't have to worry about anything. Further, Narada says that it will take some time because Shiva at the time being has got some duties which he has to follow. What are those duties? Is first is he has to bring Kamadeva, the god of love, under control, and then further few more other duties which have to be done. So in that case, a little it might take some time, some delay might take place, but you please be patient. Surely your daughter will be married to the Lord Himself. So that's how the marriage of Gauri takes place with Lord Shiva. And at this time, now the god of love, Kamadeva's wife was Rati Devi. She prays to Lord Shiva because her husband, now Shiva is a great tapasvi. So when he was distracted by Shiva, when he came to distract Shiva, obviously by Shiva's third eye was burnt to ashes. So at that time, Kamadeva's wife, Rati Devi, she comes to Shiva and she prays. She chants different prayers and mantras in praise of Lord Shiva. Then she says that I want to get back my husband, and that's the reason I've come and I have sought, I've taken your shelter, I've surrendered to you. And Therefore, you give me back by Kama, without whom I cannot live. So, like this, he keeps praying. So, at that time, Lord says that now he has been destroyed, so it is very difficult to bring him back. But after a few years, after a long time, again he will become alive, and then in the worlds he will be known as Anangaha, that is bodiless. That's the reason today when we say love, it is just a feeling that all of us experience, or you yourself showcase it. Apart from that, if I say show love is we cannot show a physical form of love, right? But years before Shiva destroyed the destroy the god of love, this feeling had a physical form, like gods we worship. So therefore, Rati Devi, she saluted Shiva that at least, though I don't get back the physical form of my husband, at least he will be present as Anangaha. And at that time, it seems that she was very, very beautiful. And like this, she went back, Rati Devi goes back. She was very beautiful, very good looking, and so on. So, this story basically of Rati Devi coming and praying to Lord Shiva, this was told by this was told by Narada to Himavan when he was worrying about what will happen to his daughters. So, therefore, Himavan says that. Um Himavan, he says, okay, I'm happy, but then I have some little doubts because once what so happened is I see certain women who are always weeping, or maybe some women are always sad. So, what is the reason of all this? So, at that time, it seems that, and this lady whom Himavan had seen was none other than Rati Devi herself. So, this was before she goes to Lord Shiva and prays to get her husband back. So, at this time, Rati Devi says that, so Himavan had met her previously. Rati Devi tells, I was a wife of Kamadeva, and the entire incident, how he was burned to ashes. So therefore, I am sad. And at that time, Himalaya says that, and she wants to end her life. And at that time, Himavan, he only had advised that no, you go and pray to Lord Shiva. He will bless you. He will give you some solution. He will guide you, so you don't have to worry about things and so. So like this is how Rati Devi got back Shiva. The world was blessed with a feeling of love, and Gauri and Shiva's marriage also took place ultimately. Then the goddess also, now Gauri, after she got married to Lord Shiva, she also talks about the power of the gods like Vishnu, Brahma, Narayana, uh, the various rishis, the Prajapati like Daksha, various gods like Brahma. So she keeps talking about all that, and then she also talks about Narayana. Like this, different conversation takes place between sages also. Then different gems and creepers are also mentioned in the Padma Purana. Gems like the Chintamani, creepers like the Kalpavriksha, creepers and trees, various rivers, oceans, yakshas, Gandharvas. Just their names also have been mentioned in detail. Then with this, if you say, you can say in detail, the conversation is taking place. I'm not telling you too much in detail, but who are the Kinnaras, what exactly they were doing, what are the names of different Gandharvas, and so on. So like this, there are small stories here and there. And Parvati, it seems at that time, Parvati, she asks Lord Shiva. The conversation between Shiva and Parvati is there in the Padma Purana, wherein she asks that how many attendants you have. Parvati asks Shiva, how many attendants you have, what are their names, what is their nature, and so on. So Shankara, Lord Shiva says that there are crores in number. Their valor is known in many ways, their physical strength is known in many ways, and the entire world is occupied by them. They enjoy, they eat various kinds of foods and so on. Then, like this, she keeps on asking different questions. Who are Kinnaras? And so on. How is their body? How is their, you can say, what kind of clothes they wear, and so on. So, like this, there are different things that take place. So, Parvati asks a lot of questions. She wishes to know about many things, and that's how Shiva gives an answer. So, once it so happened that there was Parvati once says that I want a son who has to be born, and you see the entire world is being blessed with son. I see so many people being happy, so I also am craving to have a son for myself. So at that time, there was a person called Viraka. Viraka. So Sharvaha is the name of Shiva that is mentioned in Padma Purana. He says like, before a son is born to us, this Viraka, he is also my great devotee. You can adopt him as your son, and he will also be very lucky to have a mother like you. So like this, Parvati was very happy, and she sent her friend. Her friend's name was Vijaya. She sent her and told that you bring this boy Viraka to me. So immediately Vijaya, her friend, Parvati's friend, goes to Viraka, And what this Viraka is, he is a protector of the attendants of Shiva. So he goes and Vijaya tells, "Oh Shiva, oh Viraka, you come. The goddess herself, goddess Parvati herself, is calling you." So he was very happy, and immediately he followed Vijaya. So it seems that at that time, when Parvati saw the boy, it seems that milk started oozing from her breasts out of motherly affection. And at that time, Parvati says that. Affectionately she calls him, keeps him near, and so on. You become my son. And like this, she takes him near, places him on his lap, hugs him, and so on. So like this, and she also decorates him with a lot of small bells, divine ornaments. So just as a mother would do for her own son, Parvati also does all the things to Viraka. Then it seems that she chanted a lot of divine mantras, different rituals that are usually done for small children. All that also is done by Parvati. And she tells him, wherever you want to go, you go slowly, take care of yourself, and so on. So like this, she was very happy. And then once it so happened that Viraka, the son, now he was the protector of all the other attendants of Shiva. So every day they used to wander about here and there, and it seems that uh, suddenly one fine day he vanished. And then in detail some stories are there wherein in the previous birth also this Viraka was her son, was a son of Parvati, and so on. Such stories are also told. So finally it seems that Viraka finally. So Viraka's incident, Viraka comes for a short period of time and then he goes away. So it seems like a dream for Parvati. So basically it is like when we look at things temporarily also, attachment develops towards that things, but then it is not permanent. So this was just like an incident that takes place wherein Shiva and Parvati. So basically through this what we get to know is too much if we become attached to this material world, material possessions, and so on. At times it might become difficult. We'll be blinded by the reality, what exactly is happening around. So the same thing happens here. So finally this chapter ends with the story of Gauri's marriage and what happens further. Then you have the birth of Kumara, and then you also have the story of Ahalya. So that also I'll just tell you. Then you have a shloka for Ganapati in the Padma Purana. Now the story of Ahalya, interesting story. So basically, Ahalya story is the same story that we see in the Ramayana, wherein Indra disguises himself in the form of Gautama and he goes there. So this same thing has been mentioned here. So basically, here you have a lot of you can say the way things have been put is as if Indra did a lot of injustice, like maybe assaulting Ahalya and so on. So basically, it did happen that as such, Indra did not have any enmity on Gautama. He just wanted to play his own tricks, and that's where he disguised as Gautama and so on. But little here in the Padma Purana, they showcase the story as if Indra has done a lot of ill doings on uh, Ahalya and so on. So little, of course, what he did was obviously wrong. So therefore, we can consider it that way. But little, you can say they try to portray it in a very like maybe from a female point of view, feminist point of view. Oh, you did something to me, you attacked me, and so on. So in that way, the story is portrayed. But little maybe you can consider it like the original story that happens in the Ramayana. Further, you have few more things that are mentioned in the Padma Purana. Padma Purana mainly has got a lot of Phalashrutis that we had discussed earlier, like the Bhagavata Mahatmya, lot of Mahatmyas, not the Phalashruti, Mahatmya, significance, in the Gita Mahatmya, and so on. You have a few shlokas for Ganesha, and like this few stories that we have already seen that were there. Now, in if you see the entire Puranas, if you read, you'll have lot of small stories that are there. We don't have time, like too much. We cannot look at everything. Otherwise, then the story will never get over. So basically, main incidents like the Ramayana are mentioned here. So like this, Padma Purana mainly talks about the glories of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, mainly the glories of Lord Vishnu. You can consider. It also talks about the other basically it tries to glorify Lord Vishnu and the names of different pilgrimage places and so on. Lastly, it concludes with how one should conduct in the four yugas, which this is a topic which is quite similar to the other four yugas that are there. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. Okay, so these are the four. With this, Padma Purana comes to an end. Next Purana that we start with. Okay, I just wanted to know from your side. Uh, now, from as far as what I remember is, now what is remaining is Srimad Bhagavatam is remaining. Brahmanda Purana and Brahma Vaivarta Purana. These two are remaining. Apart from that, is anything remaining? Anyone who is attending maybe regularly, Alamelu ji, Anuradha ji, if you remember. Anyone? No? Srimad Bhagavatam is remaining. Brahmanda and Brahma Vaivarta is what I remember. Brahmanda have we done? No, right? These three are remaining. Apart from that, I don't remember. That Brahmanda Purana, correct. Lalita Sahasranama, that we have not seen. Okay, so as far as what I remember, only these three are remaining. Brahmanda, Brahma Vaivarta, and Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam will take towards the end because it is quite in detail. So we have to look at that also in detail. So Brahmanda, maybe we can start with Brahmanda. Brahmanda Purana. Just 2 minutes, I'll just take the text. Okay, so now Brahmanda Purana. If you see for yourself, now from the name itself, what we know is Brahmandam. Now, Brahmanda Purana or Brahma Vaivarta Purana by itself, just by looking at the name, they are Brahma Puranas. So, basically, Brahma Puranas in the sense they are talk about mainly the process of creation that is there. So, this is the main thing. And apart from that, Brahmanda Purana has got two main contributions that are there. One is Lalita Sahasranama, most famous that we know. And second is you also have Adhyatma Ramayana. Few of you might be aware of this. Adhyatma Ramayana is another text that is there in the Brahmanda Purana. So these two are mainly, you can say, uh, the main things of Brahmanda Purana. And further, you also have this is one Purana which talks a lot about Advaita philosophy. Now, basically, in Vaishnavism also we'll talk about Vishishta Advaita or um, Dvaita and so on. But this is one of those Puranas that talks about Advaita philosophy. It also tries to highlight a lot on Rama Bhakti. That's the reason you have Adhyatma Ramayana itself in it. And it seems that this text that was there, it was also found in uh, even places like Indonesia also. That is what is told in recent references. We don't have reference of this in the original Purana. But then it seems that this text, somehow Brahmanda Purana has passed on even to other countries and people have been reading it. This is what the text is too. Now, Brahmanda Purana mainly it seems that initially it was lost and then in later times it was recovered. So now that we have now roughly around 15,000 verses. So originally people say there were 12,000, some say there are 14,000. So little there's a confusion of this. But it seems that the verses, it seems that they were lost in between. And then in the later period, they were revived also. So because it was lost initially and then later it was revived, there might be a few differences up and down. But roughly you can consider till about 14 to 15,000 verses. And it is basically encyclopedic. Like all other Puranas, it talks about few gods and goddesses, mainly tries to glorify Rama Bhakti and also talks about Lalita. That is chapters from chapter 5 to chapter 54 of the Brahmanda Purana tries to glorify about Lalita Sahasranama. That is all the and 1008 names of goddess Lalita. So and now here when we say Lalita Sahasranama, it's not only the 1000 names that come in. It talks with the Purva Bhaga, Uttara Bhaga, then the manifestation of goddess Lalita, bit of Tantras, Lalita Upakhyana, Uttara Bhagam, so everything. So entirely deals with Lalita Sahasranama. The about goddess Lalita, one part out of this is Lalita Sahasranama. So basically, it is a conversation as we know. Dishti Brahmanda Purane Hayagriva Agastya Sampavade. So the conversation between Lord Hayagriva and Sage Agastya, and it seems that now how Lalita, goddess Lalita, how she came out of fire is when Indra was worshipping the goddess who was goddess, that is Parashakti, and at that time, for this is one incident, and later she fights with the demon Banda Asura, and finally she wins over him. That's how goddess Lalita emerges out of fire, and that's how we start worshipping. So mainly, if you see, about 20 to 25% of the entire Purana talks about Lalita Lalita Upakhyana. That is mainly the glorification or the significance of Lalita. Then the major part of the Purana covers Adhyatma Ramayana. Now, Adhyatma Ramayana, you can consider, though it talks about Ramayana story of Rama, it is little bit with a Advaitic point of view. So, Adhyatma, that means philosophy, Adhyatma as we say. So, merely it might not just deal with the story of Rama, little it might get philosophical, like Shankaracharya's text that are there. Shankaracharya talks about normal stories also, at the same time talks about tough philosophy also. So it can be a mixture or a blend of both. Then you have, so this is the major part that is covered, and then you also have little pilgrimage places, religious places that are mentioned in places like Kashmir, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu. So these are the three main states that are covered in the Brahmanda Purana. And if you see now, the Adhyatma Ramayana itself has got more than five, roughly more 4,500. You can consider verses close to 5,000. So that itself covers a major part of this Purana. And like this, you have Kanchi Mahatmyam, that is there, Viraja Kshetra Mahatmyam, Pinakini Mahatmya. These are all texts basically talking about different kshetras, different places that are. Further, you also have the few other incidents that are there is how Rudra was born. So again, like all other Puranas, Brahmanda Purana also first talks about Naimisharanya, how all the sages assembled at Naimisharanya, how this entire universe evolved, how the world was born. Now here Brahmanda Purana, because now Brahmanda Purana will always glorify Brahma, you can say, at a higher stage. So here it will not say that he was born through the navel of Lord Vishnu. The only mention is the golden egg is there, and or the cosmic egg that we call, that breaks, and out of that Brahma emerges. So this is the reference that is told in the Brahmanda Purana. Next you have the process of creation that has been mentioned. Further, the different kalpas and the manvantaras that are there, and how Brahma initially itself, he starts when he was given the duty of creation. Mentally, he starts creating. Now, all of us also, if you have to do something mentally, we start working on that, right? I'll do this, I'll do that. We do a lot of planning, and then finally we start with the actual part. And then finally, so like this, Brahma starts the process of creation. Then Rudra was born. Then the 11 Rudras were born. Then the Manasa Putras, the 7 rishis like Bhrigu and so on are born. Then you have God Shiva. God Shiva's mention is also mentioned here. And here you have the form of Shiva, who is born in the form of Neela Lohita. Neela Lohita is one form of Lord Shiva. And so basically here how Shiva, now Brahmanda Purana, if you see, it is again a conversation between Brahma, that is between the sages and Suta. So now birth of Neela Lohita and the 8 names and forms of Shiva are mentioned in the Brahma Purana. So the 8 forms of Shiva, this is one chapter that is there in this Brahma Purana. So here, as per this chapter, it says that a child was crying on the lap of Brahma, and at that time Brahma, it seems that he asks him, why do you cry? And at that time he replied that, you give me some name immediately, that's the reason I'm crying. The child says, I'm not even having a name, you're not doing that. So the Lord's Brahma says, oh Lord, you're named as Rudra. So again Brahma asks, so still the child continued to cry. So he says, now why you're crying? He says, no, still you give me a name. He says, Bhava. Again the child says, gives him a third name, Sharva. So Rudra, Bhava, Sharva, Ishana, then Pashu, Pashus, he says, or Pashupati. Then he says Bhima. Again he cries seventh name Ugra. Lastly, the eighth name is Mahadeva. And at this time the child stops crying. So this is how the Lord Shiva gets his different 8 names that are there. And then finally Shiva says, okay, now you told me the names, now you tell me the different abodes, the different places where these names would be there. And then it seems that the places were sun, water, wind, earth, fire, space, Brahmana, and the moon. So these were the bodies where these eight forms of Shiva will always live, the Lord will always be worshipped, and so on. So Brahma again, now this child was there, was crying on the lap of Indra, on the lap of Brahma, sorry. He was originally called as Neela Lokita. So Brahma tells the child that first you were called as Rudra by me. So therefore, you will be known famously as Rudra. And the sun is the first body that is there. So basically, Rudra is for sun. Then Ishana or Bhava is for water. Like this, for each name there is a place also. So for Rudra, your place is sun. So therefore, another name for the sun god will also be Rudra. The sun god will also be remembered as Rudra. And while seeing you, that is the reason one should avoid while it is rising or while it is setting, it seems that one will avoid to see the sun. These are some references that are mentioned. Just like we have the famous story of Ganesha that is there. During Ganesh Chaturthi, many people don't see the sun, right? Because of the enmity of Ganesha and the moon god. So like this, there are different stories. Now here, let's not call it a story. So because he gets the name as Rudra, that is a very fierce form. That's the reason you see when the sun is rising or setting, it gets orangish red, right? So that is like a very fierce form. It is not a normal, the original color of the sun until it gets fierce. So that's the reason people might stop, might avoid you or so on. So like Rudra, your form also gets very fierce. Okay. Now, like this, Brahma tells him different things that worshipping during the two periods, that is during the morning time and evening time, is very very auspicious. So therefore, that's the reason why a lot of us we chant prayers early morning and in the evening also we light the lamp and chant. So why are we following all these rituals also? All this mention is there in the Brahmanda Purana. And while we do that, repetition of mantras will be done like Samaveda, Rigveda, Yajurveda. The Brahmanas will chant different mantras and thus there'll be a very good atmosphere, positive vibrations all around. And it seems that morning the sun represents the Rigveda, midday it represents the Yajurveda, the late afternoon also. Finally, Rudra. Rudra is a form of the Vedas himself. He lies down, takes rests. So this is how it is there. Then there are certain rules that are to be followed. That is, one should never, in fact, now whenever we do something, some auspicious thing also, we always do it in the east-west direction, right? Even maybe the puja area of our house, or in general, if you're doing something, go to facing east direction. You do the Sandhya Vandana, morning it should be east, evening it should be west. Like this, there are, or any some puja you do, everything is east-west, right? So therefore, nothing you can say ashubdhi should not be done in the east-west direction. That is maybe passing urine also. So basically, sometimes in our houses also, the washrooms that are there, they will be built in such a way that they don't face the east-west direction. But now, it is this such things we cannot keep in mind. Now, maybe if we by ourselves, if we are able to construct some house fully, you can say by our own, maybe we can follow such things. Apart from that, such rules cannot be followed. It depends on the structure of the house. Now, let me give you my own example. In our house, if you see, everything is there in the east-west direction, even including the washroom also. So, such things cannot be changed. But then there are certain things wherein, so basically as a mark of respect also. Washroom is one part, but maybe in those times if you see the washrooms that used to be there, they used to be outside the house, right? You didn't have like even a proper washroom like structure. Everything should be maybe in the backyard or so. So nothing should be done maybe facing the sun. So this was a mark of respect that is there. So like this different things are being talked about. And further it seems that, so basically, this Rudra form represents the sun. Bhava form, he represents water. Right? So basically, Bhava, water is also something which is very much needed to all human beings. So the water also should never be, you can say, never be polluted. We should never throw any, you can say, dust also. And that's the reason why some people, when they do snanam also, like whenever we take a bath also, at least one small piece of cloth should always be there around our body. That is what it is told. So, but no such things now. Few of us we can practice, few of us you can let go. But as per scriptures, this is what is mentioned so that we show that respect that we have even towards Varuna Bhagavan. Next is water, which maybe has you can say it has some mixed color also, or some mud that is there, or some bad smell is coming out of that. Such water should always be avoided, because now here through this entire chapter, what is being told is the natural elements that we look around, all of that is compared to some divine element that is there. Even the water also we must show some respect. Even to the sun god there should be some respect. So each and everything that we see around in nature, especially the Rig Veda tries to show a lot of respect that is there on the natural elements, because in those times we did not have the concept of idol worship also. So people used to worship natural elements, things in nature. So they used to worship the sky, trees, water, sun. So for them that was God, and they used to show that amount of respect, because you see nature helps us, at the same time nature can show its destructive part also. So because now nature is sustaining, we feel that everything is in our hands. But you say some disaster, some natural disaster comes in, maybe heavy rains or a storm like situation or an earthquake. You see earthquakes are taking place recently, very frequently, right? So like this, if anything takes place, the entire world turns very difficult, or it becomes life becomes very difficult to stay. Say so. Therefore, that's the reason why in our scriptures itself, right from old times, it has been mentioned that respect nature. If you respect nature, if you take care of nature, if you safeguard nature, nature will also automatically take care of you. But if you spoil it, then it will also show you its colors one fine day. If not today, later it will surely show, maybe 50 years, 100 years later. But it is also going to react in such a way. Therefore, now itself you have to respect. Now, you imagine this has been mentioned in all our scriptures. Brahmanda Purana is one example. Now, here we might have a question. Why things? Little it is off topic, but I'm just telling you. Why now something has to be maybe mentioned? Maybe now the sun represents Rudra, or maybe water represents Baba. Why should we always connected with some divine element? Is there some reason? Now, whenever we tell, okay, the sun god represents Lord Shiva himself, automatically the divinity or that bhakti develops, right? But somehow just worship water will not do. But if water is Varuna, he is the place where Lord Narayana himself sleeps. That's how Lord Vishnu gets the name Narayana, one who lives on water. Or Bhava, this form of Shiva represents water. If such things are told, automatically bhakti develops in us, right? And that is, it's not just to lure people around, maybe, or you can say catch people's attention, but maybe when some kind of bhakti or respect develops, automatically we don't do things that will spoil nature also. So this is the same thing that has been mentioned. So further, Sharvaha, this form of Shiva, represents earth. So earth that is there, especially on the earth, you should not, again, trees should be planted everywhere, trees should not be cut. Then even if one is sleeping on the earth, we should not cause injury also. That's the reason we chant shlokas, right? Samudravasane devi parvatastana mandale vishnupatne namastupyam padasparsham kshamaswame. Now there is no other option, but you have to stamp the earth, right? Without the stamping the earth you cannot get up, right? But then there is no other option, we have to do that. So at least we can ask for kshama prarthana, for forgiveness. We can at least ask, so that everything remains good, and we develop, you can say, a sense of uh, what do you say, sense of gratitude. That is, there's no other option, but at least when we ask for forgiveness, it is fine. Next is uh, you have Vayu, Ishanaha. Ishanaha, this form of Shiva represents Vayu. Vayu is a fourth part, fourth physical body, it seems. Now, all this Brahma is telling Neela Lohita. The child Neela Lohita was none but Rudra himself. And he says that Ishana is nothing but Vayu. And you are the one. You blow very violently. You are the one. You are Prana Vayu. You are the breath who is present inside everyone. You are also Dhumraha. Dhumraha is nothing but smoke. That is, your later version becomes Dhumraha. And towards the wind also, if people are very much, you keep the wind, air is always kept fresh, it is good for living beings. But if they pollute you, living beings only have to suffer. So then finally the next Ishvaraha is the next name. He says Lord Dhumraha is, Ishvaraha is always Dhumravarnaha, meaning uh, ash color, right? That is because Lord Shiva applies a lot of bhasma all over his body. So Dhumraha, or the fifth name, is also called Pashupati. So it seems that let Agni be the place where you reside, because there only a lot of bhasma will be present. You can apply that on your body, and you are also Pashupati. Pashunam Pati, meaning Lord of all living creatures, and your brilliance, your fire, your form is very brilliant, or you can say very bright, like Agni himself, as well as you are very hot. That is, if something evil is happening around, your anger is also very terrible. So that's how Pashupati is your name, and your place of abode is Agni. Further, then the sixth name is Bhima, and the place where Bhima resides is Akasha. Akasha is nothing but space or ether. So basically, it is body of Bhima. Now, Bhima, as per the Mahabharata reference, also we know Bhima has got a very strong physical body, right? So therefore, he needs a lot of space. So therefore, a lot of space is given around in Akasha, so you can live there very happily. And at the same time, whenever we worship Lord Shiva also, we should not, in the form of Bhima, we should not get into physical fights also with someone, because Bhima is quite strong. So we should not go and show our physical strength also, otherwise it becomes very difficult. So we have to behave very properly in scenes in front of Bhima. Next is Ugraha, and Ugraha, this form is which has been mentioned, and the Brahmana. The Brahmana is the person who does your puja also. He is your praise. So Ugra, this form of Shiva, lives in the body of a Brahmana or a priest, you can consider. Next is the last name, that is Soma. Soma is the last name. Sorry, Soma is not last name. Mahadeva, right? Sorry. Mahadeva is the last name. So Mahadeva is the one who resides everywhere. It seems in the world, everywhere one who resides, that is Mahadeva. Mahandeva, the great Lord who lives in Kailasa, who lives on earth, who lives in temples, everywhere he lives, that is Mahadeva. So this is the place. So all the different Rudras, 8 Rudras that are there, their respective places and how they are to be worshipped. Now all of them's wives are also mentioned. Those who want, you can note it down. First is Rudra, the wife's name is Raudri. Raudri. Or you can say, not the wife's name, basically the body of Rudra is called Raudri, and wife is Suvarchali. Suvarchala. Suvarchala, Surya's wife. Suvarchala, and their son is Shaneshwara. So here you have the reference of sun form. Next is Bhava. Bhava's wife is Dhatri, and the son is Ushanas. Ushanas is nothing but the planet Venus. Next is Sharvaha. Sharva's wife is Vikeshi, and their son is Angaraka. Angaraka is the Mars planet. Next is Ishanaha. Ishana's wife is Shiva by name. Shiva, and they have two sons, Manojava, Shiva and Anila. Now here if you see, Ishana represents a wind element. So Manojava is their son. Manojava is called, so Shiva is one name, and Anila has Vayu. That Srilingam becomes Anila. So two names you can call. So wife is Shiva or Anila, and they had two sons, Manojava. Manojava is nothing but having the speed like the wind, that is Manojava. And Avignatagati meaning one who has got very fast movement. You see, speed of wind is very fast, right? We cannot even see. Keeps moving continuously. So one whose movement cannot be stopped at all. Next is Akasha. Akasha's, it seems that different quarters that are there. Quarters, northern, southern, they are the wives of Akasha, and Swarga is the sun. That is, heaven is the son of Bhima. Bhima who represents Akasha. Ugra's wife is Diksha, and their wife is called Santana or Sanatana, you can call. Then eighth, and the Mahadeva's wife is Rohini. Now Mahadeva is basically in general Parvati Devi. Another reference, the eighth form of the Lord is also called as Chandramas. Chandramas, that is the moon god. First Rudra is the sun god. Last can be the moon god. Chandramas' wife is Rohini, and their son is Buddha. So like this, these are all different lords. They represent different places of worship. Different places where they live, and their different sons and wife. Sons and wife that has been mentioned. So one who worships, Brahma says, one who worships the Lord in these different forms, he will attain mukti, he'll be blessed with the best, and so on. Okay. शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so yesterday we were looking at Brahma Purana, sorry, Brahmanda Purana. So Brahmanda Puranam, just as I gave you a gist, basically it talks about the creation in this world, how it takes place. We also saw the different forms of Lord Shiva, and we had concluded with that yesterday. Brahma Purana, further, Purana also talks about different time measurements that are there. That is the four different yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. There are time measurements that are there. What are the characteristics of people who are present there? All this the Brahmanda Purana highlights. Further, Brahmanda Purana also describes about Lord Skanda or Kartikeya. One of those few Puranas. Maybe after Skanda Purana, you can consider this Purana, Brahmanda Purana, talking about the significance of Kartikeya. So basically, he just talks about a legend that is there, and it does not talk about. There is something called Kumara Vidya. Now, especially in Tamil Nadu or southern regions, if you go, Muruga or Lord Kartiya, he is known as a Tamil Perumal, right? Or what do you call Tamil god? That is Muruga. So he is worshipped there, Tamil Kadwal, as we say. So he is worshipped, and that so the way of worship, how Muruga is worshipped, that in general is called Kumara Vidya. So Brahmanda Purana does not explain exactly about Kumara Vidya, but it has certain stories. So what is the story? Once it so happened that once now Parvati and Shiva, they had got you can say occurs that Parvati cannot beget children biologically. That is, after getting into a physical relationship with someone, she cannot beget children. So therefore, how now somehow the child has to be born, right? So what Indra does is, Indra once says that once Shiva and Uma, Uma, that is goddess Parvati, she wanted a son. So she prays to Lord Shiva. Finally, Shiva is her husband. They marry each other, and when they try to beget children, but somehow because of the curse some obstacle has to come. So therefore Indra comes and he's afraid, saying that if a child is born, that too out of a curse is already given, a child cannot be born. Still, if it is born, it can lead to some problem. So he tells that, he requests Agni Bhagwan that you go there and you disturb the intercourse that both of them were having. You go and disturb that, and suddenly Agni comes in, and Uma is shocked to see, goddess Uma is shocked to see, she suddenly gets up. And at that time, what happens is the generative fluid, the liquid of Rudra, it falls on the ground. Now, in today's times also, if you see, the generative fluid of men, that is a semen that we call, that is something which is, you can say, it is very easy, right, to come out. That is what is said so. So that is, it spreads about easily, it can multiply in millions and so on. So the same thing happened with Lord Rudra also. Why I'm highlighting on this more is because we, whatever happens today or whatever we see around, most of you here are married, you might have experienced this. So you would be knowing that there are many things, or even in science also, when we read, you would know that certain things that we experience today in life also, it's not that randomly it is just happening with only human beings. Gods themselves have experienced that, and from Lord Shiva, that's the reason we call Vagarta viva samprittau Vagarta pratipattaye jagatah pitarau vande Parvati Parameshwarau. The world's parents are Lord Shiva and Parvati. And that's the reason we read all the texts that are there. For example, Saundarya Lahari and so on, it highlights about the process of, you can say, or about the powers of Shiva and Shakti, the worship of Shiva, Shakti, and so on. So, why it highlights is to show to the world that whatever will happen in the world tomorrow, the world's first parents are Shiva and Parvati. Whatever they have undergone, whatever relationships they had, the same thing has to be followed by all the human beings who are there. So it is nothing new altogether. The same thing which Shiva and Parvati experience, same thing today also married couples experience, it seems. So therefore, as usual, his semen, it spreads about everywhere, and it seems that now Uma gets very angry at Agni, and she tells Agni that you carry this semen that is fallen, you carry it as a fetus inside your belly, and now it becomes very unbearable for Agni to carry it, and he requests River Ganga to carry it. Now Ganga also, now it is full of heat, it was very terrible. Lord Shiva's semen is not very easy to carry, so Ganga, what she does is she discharges it, she gives it, and discharges it, mainly the fetus from her belly, it falls down, and it seems that the wife of the six Saptarishis, except Arundhati, that is, except Vasishta's wife Arundhati. It seems that the child, what happened is, it was split into six parts. So it manifested, basically the Lord was one and he had six faces. That's how Lord Kartikeya has got the name of Shadananaha. So the wives of the six Saptarishis, they fed him, and the god, it seems, he manifested into six mouths, Shadananaha. Each of those wives, each of those six wives of Saptarishis, they fed him. He was brought up by the six Kritikas, and that's how he gets the name of Kartikeya. It seemed that while he yawned, while the small child yawned, it seems that a javelin, that is a Shakti, a weapon kind of a thing, came out of his mouth. And God Vishnu, he gave him two birds. Peacock, that is Mayuraha, that's why Kartikeya is Mayuravahanaha, and a cock. You have cock on his dwaja also. So in this way, you have Kartikeya who holds a Shakti, that's a veil in his hand, and a cock who's always there. And when he yawned, the Shakti came out. That's how he becomes the Senapati, commander in chief of the Devas. And like this, from it seems that a first temple for Kartikeya, it seems a person, there was a seal, SEAL, seals you have in history. On that, in the northern region of Mathura today, in the city of Mathura, you have a seal for Lord Kartikeya, it seems. And therefore, as per Puran, now, if you see, in northern India also, if you go, it Kartikeya is a brahmachari. He is not married. But in South India, or even Puranas also don't have these records. As per South India, we have Valli and Devasena, who are the two wives of Kartikeya. Valli, Devasena, some people also call Devayani, but Devasena is more popular. So that's how we have Valli Kalyanam, Devasena Kalyanam, and so on, that we celebrate in South India. But as per Purana references, it is not so. And in Northern India also, Kartikeya is worshipped as a brahmachari only. So this is the story of Kartikeya that is mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana. Next, you also have the story of Ganesha was there. And in fact, the name Subramanya, one more reference, Subramanya for Lord Kartikeya, this name also is not highlighted in the Brahmanda Purana. In other references, it would have been mentioned. Next, once it so happened that Ganesha, next story is about Ganesha. Now, it seems that now this reference is mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana, wherein it seems that the Buddhists in those times in Eastern Asia also, they used to worship Lord Ganesha. That's the reason you see in some countries apart from India also, we have the worship of Ganesha, or we have certain gods. Maybe they say no, it seems to be like our own Indian god Ganesha, and so on. So basically, Ganesha is the son of Uma. Once it so happened that uh, now there is a different story altogether. The famous incident how Ganesha's elephant head was cut off by Shiva. That is one story, one popular story that we know. But there is also another story. You can say a different version of the story that is mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana. What is that? Let's have a look. So basically, once it so happened that Shiva and Uma, both of them, were spending time together. And at that time, both Ganesha and Kartikeya, they were waiting at the entrance. And suddenly Parshurama came there. Ganesha stopped Parshurama. And Ganesha, what happened is that at that time, Parshurama forced himself inside. So Ganesha lifted up Parshurama, it seems, and he threw him in all the four directions, and he threw him on the ground. He like whirled him in all the four directions. He threw him on the ground far away. Parshurama at that time, what happens is that he hurled the axe, the parachute that he has with him, he hurls it at Ganesha. And Ganesha at the time, that's how one tusk of Ganesha, half it gets cut off. Parvati becomes very offended, and she tells that this should not be done by Parshurama, because ultimately our sons were just doing their duty, right? They were just trying to protect us. All both of us were there inside, they were just guarding us. So therefore now you should do something. And she wanted to, at that time, she gets so angry that she wanted to leave Kailasa along with both her children, Ganesha and Kartikeya. And later you have the story that ultimately Lord Krishna and Radha, they come and they console Parvati and tell her to return back to, and basically they make friendship between Parvati and Parshurama. This is another reference. Now there is one more episode that is mentioned is, now Shiva's mother-in-law, that is Parvati's mother, Mena, that is the wife of Himavan, she always had a problem with Shiva. That is the place where he lived. And now he was not like a normal person, right? So basically, a jatadhari, not very pleasant to look at, always living in the smashana, applying bhasma all over his body, wearing a skull mala. And in Kailas also, you see very cold, extreme climatic conditions. So it becomes very difficult for a person to survive. And she did not want her daughter to live in such a place. And always she used to not directly tell Shiva, but she used to taunt Uma and tell that why it is like this, why Shiva is living here, and so on. So every time Uma used to feel insulted, and she straight away she went to Shiva and told him that let us shift our residence from here, let us stay in a nice place somewhere. And Shiva at that time he selected Varanasi, that is today's Kashi, and he told Ganesha, he named him as Nikumba, and he says that you get the entire Varanasi, this place vacated for me, I'm going to settle here. Ganesha at that time, in the form of Nikumba, he appeared in a dream of a Brahmin, and the Brahmin's name was Mankana, and he asked him to install the image of uh, the Lord at the outskirts of the city. This Brahmin did, and there Ganesha, he actually has visited the city of Varanasi, it seems. And at that time, it so happened that there was a king who was there, King Sudasa. He did not have children, and both of them, he along with his queen, they come and they pray to Lord Ganesha, tell that you grant her son. And Nikumba, at that time, Nikumba is another name for Ganesha. He says that now, for the time being, I will not grant the boon that you want, but what I'm going to do is in the time, uh, one second. Yeah. So here what happened is, so Nikumba, he did not, Nikumba, that is actually Ganesha, he did not grant this boon, and now they felt very sad. So the queen, she said that this god is of no use at all. Usually gods, they grant the devotees all the wishes are fulfilled, but he is not doing that. So basically he is not at all a god, he is some evil spirit, and therefore let us destroy the shrine. Now the initial temple, the image that was built by the Brahmana was of actually Ganesha, it seems, and that Ganesha's temple, the shrine of Ganesha, was destroyed by this king, and this king got so angry after this that he destroyed the entire shrine of Nikumba Ganesha. And now Nikumba, Ganesha, he got an excuse that let the entire city of Varanasi be deserted. And when finally Varanasi became vacant, he goes and tells his father Shiva. Then Shiva comes and occupies this place. So this entire incident of Ganesha coming in the dream of the Brahmin, building a temple for himself, then the king and queen incident, he not granting their boon, the worship, the destruction of the temple, was to vacate the place so that Shiva can come and live. And at that time, finally, that's how Shiva comes and lives in Varanasi. So this is how the story of how Ganesha brings about Shiva to Varanasi. Then you have the different names of Ganesha that are mentioned: Ganesha, Lambodara, Ganesha, Ganana Mishaha, the chief, the commander in chief of the various Bhutaganas; Lambodaraha, having a big belly; Gajananaha, having the head of an elephant; Bhalachandraha, when the moon was cursed on the fourth day, on the Chaturthi, Sankatahara Chaturthi, as we celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, at that time he held the moon on his forehead. That's how Bhalachandraha, Shurpakaranaha, that is his ears are like a winnowing tray. Then Vignanashaha, all the Vignas, the obstacles that come in our way are destroyed. Ekanantaha, having one tongue, one teeth or one tusk. Vakratundaha, the tusk is always, sorry, the trunk of Ganesha is always a bit bent. Then also like this, there are different names for Ganesha that are there, which are mentioned in the uh, Brahmana Purana. Then Ganesha gets a priority of worshipping before all gods. And further, Krishna also grants Ganesha a boon that all auspicious rituals, right from Jata Karma, that is Garbhadanam, and so on, like this, all the rituals will first start with the worship of Ganesha. Next, you have some stories with this, the incident of Ganesha, stories of Ganesha, and then you have certain incidents that talk about Vaishnavism. Now, Vaishnavism is, you have different forms of Narayana that are mentioned here. So basically different avatars of Narayana are mentioned, like Narasimha, Vamana, Narayana himself, Prithu, Dattatreya, Parshurama, then Rama, Vedavyasa, Krishna. Then Kalki is all future. Kalki, which is mentioned in the Brahmana Purana, Brahmana Purana, that he will be born in the family of Parashara. He will be the son of Devasena. He will be called as Kalki or Vishnu Yashas. And at the 25th Kalpa, Vishnu, in the 25th Kalpa, at the end of the Kali Yuga, people also will kill each other, it seems. And at that time, finally, Kalki. Vishnu will come in the form of Kalki. He will be born in the Chandramasa Gotra, it seems, as Pramati. So much of reference has been given in the Brahmanda Purana. We don't know whether we'll be there then Maybe we might be there, of course, not in the same birth. After taking a lot of births, if we are not free from rebirth, maybe it will be there. Next, you have, so this is a mention of different incarnations that are there. Further, you have the story of Rama, little has been mentioned, and Brahmanda Purana also highlights a topic wherein once it so happened that Parshurama, he goes and meets Agastya and he learns something called Krishna Premamrita. Krishna Premamrita is none but a hymn which talks about the love. How he fell in love with Radha, what is the importance of love. And so on. So that is Krishna Premamrita that is highlighted in the uh, Brahmanda Purana. So this is one of those few Puranas that talks about Radha, Krishna, the Leela, and so on. And at sometimes it is seen that Krishna and Radha are also shown as primary gods, and it so happens that I told you the previous story of Parshurama. So Parshurama, Parvati gets very angry on Parshurama. So at that time, Parvati, she threatens, she tries to leave Shiva's house. Shiva meditates and Shiva meditates on Lord Krishna, tells him, you come somehow come and stop Radha. Stop Parvati. So at that time, Krishna comes along with Radha, and Radha, it seems that she brings about the, you can say, the mediation that takes place between Parvati and Parshurama. Now, Radha, this character is not known as per the Bhagavata Purana, as per Harivamsha, Mahabharatam, and so on. But Krishna, gopis, they manifest along with Radha, Sudhama, such things are mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana. So basically, Radha is also shown as a deity. Even today we say Radhe Krishna, right? Or Radha Krishna. So therefore, like this, there are certain things which, and Radha and Uma, it seems that, so basically, just as Shiva Parvati have their identity, similarly, Radha Krishna also have their identity. So a little bit of Radha's mention is there. Next, you have, now there are about 40 chapters. Next, you have the chapters that talk about uh, Lalita. Lalita Sasnama, Lalita Mahatmya, Lalita Upakhyana. Lalita Upakhyana is the name of the chapter. So that is a part basically dealing with Shaktism, Tantri worship, Shakti worship, and so on, wherein it is a manifestation of goddess Lalita to kill the Asura Bhanda Asura, and her marriage with Kameshwara Prananadi, these words come, right? So that is mentioned. So how goddess Lalita, she marries Lord Shiva in the form of Kameshwara. Then you also have Mahapadma, Kamakshi, such goddesses mentions are there. So Lalita Mahatmya is a very important part of Brahmanda Purana. Lalita Sahasranama has come to us from Brahmanda Purana, so very very important part. And basically here in detail, Lalita Upakhyana has been mentioned. The names of Lalita Sahasranama, their meanings in detail, that has been mentioned. Next, you have some reference that is given to sun worship that is there, and how sun is worshipped. So for this, there is a story. Yajnavalkya. Once it so happens that Yajnavalkya's teacher, now Yajnavalkya is a sage of Yajurveda, and the main, you can say, propagator of Yajurveda is Vaishampayana. So once Yajnavalkya, he became very proud of his teachings, he became very arrogant, he felt that he knew everything. At that time, his teacher Vaishampayana says that whatever you have learned, you give me back everything. Now, how can someone give back? Knowledge I cannot return back, right? So Yajnavalkya at that time returns by actually vomiting back whatever he had learned. All the Yajus mantras, all the Yajur mantras that are there. And while he was vomiting like this, he talks about, you can say, there is something called Vajasanihi Samhita. It is a text from the Yajurveda, which actually is in praise of the sun god. And then, like this, further, this vomit that he does, that is eaten by birds. They are called Tittiri birds. That's how we have the Taittiriya Samhita of Yajurveda. So, this was how the different Samhitas were created in Yajurveda. Next is, you have some reference even to, you can say, uh, Jainism and Buddhism, which are actually non-Vedic religions. So non-Vedic religions are, they don't accept the authority of the Vedas. They have their own, you can say, own ways of living. And it seems that in the Kali Yuga, especially, you will find all these Buddhists, Jains, and the Kapalikas. Kapalikas is again or Ajivas, so called, you can say Jains and so on, they follow a religion of their own. And basically, for them, what happens is they will have, like Jainism and Buddhism, they will have one religious leader, they will follow on his path. So they will not accept the authority of the Vedas. For them, maybe having good conduct. Jainism will be the 24 Tirthankars, or in Buddhism, you have Satya, Asteya, Parigraha, and so on, such qualities. So for them, they believe in that. So that will also be, these cults are also mentioned here. Then you have the science of music that is mentioned in Brahmanda Purana, little bit it highlights. From, of course, for music, the main text is Samaveda. So music little has been mentioned. Then, as like all other Puranas, you have some, you can say, Dharma Shastram that has been mentioned with regards to Shraddha Karma and so on. At Shraddha Karma, the final rites of a person should be done without fail. Garuda Purana mainly highlights about this. Then it seems that now Brahmanda Purana mentions this. I don't know how far it is true or so. It seems that people living, or you can say the regions of Orissa, Telangana, today's Telangana, and North Sindh, that is there, Sindh, Sindh. So you can say the northern part of India. It seems that they were regarded as unfit for performing Shraddha Karma. Now that doesn't mean that people living in these states cannot do it. Now for this, maybe there might be one reason. Now in the north, in the regions, that is northern part, maybe due to the climatic conditions or due to the lifestyle that is there, people, it would have been difficult for doing things. But beyond that, I don't know why. There is, I tried my best to find out, but I didn't find any reason that is valid. But Brahmanda Purana little highlights about these three places that have been told. Now basically, when we say this Orissa and so on, it might not even be today's Orissa, that is today's geographical Orissa. It might be some more part. So maybe you had the river, you had the Bay of Bengal nearby the eastern side. So that such things might be there. But of course, there are a lot of contradictions on this, and therefore you can say there is now the Puranas also. There's a lot of editing that takes place. Editing, but basically all this knowledge has passed on through oral tradition, right? So from one generation to the next generation, it keeps on passing. So in that, some things are missed out, some things are misinterpreted. So that way also things can happen. Next, you can say some reference also about the Vedas that has been mentioned, Rig Veda, Sama Veda, then Krishna Yajur Veda and Shukla Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. So how many total number of verses are there, then how many mandalas are there, that has been mentioned in detail. Next, you also have something talking about the Mimamsa Shastram. So Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa. So basically Purva Mimamsa, it talks about the characteristics, and we also find the characteristics or function of Brahmanas or priests that is there, and so what exactly a priest should do and so on. And it also talks about some characteristics of Ayurveda, Jyotisha Shastram, Artha Shastram, Hetu Shastram. Hetu Shastram is today's Tarka Shastram, that is logic. Hetu is some purpose. If we are doing something, why am I doing this? This question comes, right? That means you're asking an answer, or there should be some logic behind what we are doing. When we ask a question for that, that is hetu. What is the hetu behind this? What is the purpose of this? So that's how logical reasoning, this is called hetu shastram. Then the science of music, there are 7 notes: Shadja, Rishabha, Gandhashra, so Sarigama, Padanisa, and so on. So the scales have been mentioned, just as we have Arohanam, Avrohanam, and Carnatic music, the same thing has been mentioned in detail. People who know more about music, they might like it. Then you also have different alankaras that are mentioned. Now, anyone here, you know little about music, maybe Carnatic or some other traditional music? Has anyone learned or you have heard about it? Young age you have. So we have something called alankaras also, right? Avarohana, Arohana, yeah. So sthayina, sancharina, like this, there are different alankaras that are there. So in detail, all the text that is there has been mentioned. So Carnatic music, little people might learn, or it can be even Hindustani. So in the traditional music that we have, Indian classical music as we call, the rules that are there, that has been mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana. Next, you have also the mention of Natya Shastram, that is it. Natya Shastram is a science of drama. Natya Shastram, originally written by Bharata Muni. He has contributed to Natya Shastram. So Natya Shastra is nothing but, you have, now when a drama has to be enacted, some character is given to you. The way we show that character, right? So that is something, the way you portray the character, or way you can say the character is shown. Now if there is, say, you have to depict a king or so, the clothes should be like that, the personality should be that way, right? Maybe you call upon a very thin person, or a very, you can say, a dull person who does not have the personality of a king. Such a character would not be chosen, right? So just by looking at the person, the audience should make out that he is a king, he is enacting a king. So that is the main purpose. So all such rules have been mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana. Next is, you also have the Purusha Sukta mentioned, that is there. So the Purusha Sukta in praise of Lord Vishnu has been mentioned. You also have Sankhya Yoga, Sankhya philosophy. The propounder of Sankhya Yoga is Kapila Muni. Kapila, one of the seven sons of God Brahma. So Sankhya Shastram has been mentioned. So basically, Sankhya is nothing but, Sankhya philosophy is ultimate is the Lord. So how to reach him through meditation and so on. That is Sankhya. Next, you have Yoga. Yoga Shastram by Patanjali Muni. Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Asanas, and so on. That is Yoga Shastram. Finally, the last stage is Samadhi and Moksha. Then you have Bhakti. Now, it seems that Parashurama was unable to master this text called Krishna Premamrita or Krishna Kavacha because due to lack of bhakti. So bhakti is something which is very very needed. Now we are reading something. If we see there is no bhakti. Now say for example I'm reading something in praise of Lord Krishna. Let's take the best example, Narayana or any other text. If I don't have bhakti from within, it's of no use, right? Just reading it. If you want to read something, you can read even a newspaper. Then why do you have to take up a text, right? Maybe like Narayanam and so on. So that bhakti or the feeling from inside, that is very very important. If that is not there, then there is no use at all. So Parashurama, it seems that he could not master this text Krishna Kavacha, which talks about the different leelas of Krishna, the prema or the sneham that he had with Radha and so on, because of lack of bhakti. So bhakti is something which is very very important. Next you have tantra. Now tantras are nothing but, there are different tantra shastram. Then you have Krishna mantra. Now there was a mantra that was given to Parshurama as per tantrism, that is Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Swaha. Gopi Jana Vallabhaya Swaha. Dashakshara mantra, 10 syllables. You can count for yourself. If you want, you can note it down. Gopi Janavallabhaya Swaha. He told him that the tantris, he told you, keep on chanting this mantra continuously. You will be able to master this text that is there. So, like this, he used to chant this mantra and so on. Now, the Uttama. Now, in Bhakti also, there are three kinds of Bhakti, it seems. One is Uttama Bhakti. That is, the main devotees here are Shiva. Greatest devotee of Rama or Vishnu is Shiva. So that is one reference. Next is, you have Narada. Narada Bhakti Sutras, very very famous. So Shiva is the greatest devotee. Then you have Narada. Then you have Shuka, Ambarisha, having the following the Dwadashi Vrata, Ranti Deva, Maruti, that is Hanuman, Vibhishana, Mahabali, Prahlada, Uddhava. Then the last is the gopis of Praja, gopis. So like this, there are many many bhaktas, and all of these bhaktas are included in the Narada Bhakti Sutras. At least once in a lifetime, all of you must read this Narada Bhakti Sutras. Of course, I have also not mastered this, but little a brief I'm telling you. A very very interesting text. Some people say that it is a bit philosophical, also can get a bit philosophical, but very very interesting how Narada talks about the, you can say, in fact he rates the bhakti of gopis as the most sincere bhakti. Maybe from outside, they never thought that what the world will think about me. You know, in general life, you see a girl and boy, or maybe a girl develops feeling for someone, or even Krishna for that matter. How till date people insult the Lord? One who is playing around girls or so, one who is playing around gopis and so on. But for them, what mattered is utmost premam, utmost bhakti that is there towards the Lord. When we say love, is not this false love that they had. Now, all of us also, we have our own personal experiences. Whenever we have some feelings or love for someone, can be any relationship, maybe for one's own children, one's own parents, or whoever it is, that cannot be described in words, right? Something happens to that person, our heart cannot bear that. So basically, the feeling of love and bhakti that has been given to the world by the bhaktas or gopis that were there. They did not know anything. They did not know, you can say, the ways of worship, different mantras, shlokas, nothing. But what they knew was only Krishna, Krishna, and Krishna alone. They used to have utmost bhakti, most sincere they were. And this Narada himself highlights in this Narada Bhakti Sutra. So this is the Uttama form of bhakti. Second is Madhyama. It was run by Vasishta, other sages, Manu, and little bit by Parshurama. Prakriti, or you can say that Kanishta Bhakti, is by ordinary people like us. Whose, now why it has been mentioned is, this doesn't mean that human beings don't have bhakti. But for people like us, bhakti depends on the situation that we are facing in life. Today, if all my wishes are getting fulfilled, that means I have to show bhakti more and more. If my wishes are not getting fulfilled, everything is useless, nothing is happening in this world. There is no God, there is no bhakti, nothing. So, depending on the situation, we change our mindset and react. Today, I have some time, I don't have anything else to do, I will show some bhakti. Tomorrow, no, I'm very busy, how can I do that? Rest, everything we do only for bhakti, we don't have time. So, like this, there are different things that are there. So, this is Kanishta Bhakti. That is, only when the time arises, we show. When something is needed, we become great devotees. Now, you see, for this, there is a beautiful explanation. Even a Nastika at times turns to be an Astika in terms of danger. You can say, in terms of difficult situations, even a non-believer turns into a believer. That is because he would have tried all other things, but the last resort will be God. Even in all, maybe our lives also, we might be an astika, a believer in some supreme energy or God himself, but still, if some situation comes in, we don't directly go and surrender, right? Or rather, in fact, that should not be done too. Like, we should try our best, but then when things are always good, this is human nature, things are always happening very nice in life, at that time we don't remember God. But when some situation has come in and we are not able to face it all alone, we are not able to overcome it, at that time, rightly, somehow something has to play in, and then we fall at the feet of the Lord and cry, all the problems in the world are coming on me, and so on. So, this is human nature only when difficult situations come in. And that's the reason why the Lord Himself says that that's why I send some problems or some difficulties in your life, so that at least at that time you remember me, you come towards me, you show your bhakti towards me. So this is again not for my personal belief, personal growth, he says, personal need also, but then it is for you to show bhakti so that ultimately one fine day you will attain moksha. So this is Kanishta Bhakti. Next, you have this mantra that was given. Next, there is also a stotra called Krishnamrita Stotra, about, you can say, 108 lines in praise of Krishna. That was also, it was actually recited by Shesha, and it was narrated by Agastya to Parshurama. Parshurama, he recited this stotra. So Krishnamrita Stotra is a stotram which is gifted to the world. The mention is there in the Brahmanda Purana. Now, next what happens is, so with this, the story ends. Next, you have again little bit section of Lalita Mahatmya. It starts with the Mangala Charana. Then you have how goddess Lalita, she manifests herself to kill the Asura, Bhanda Asura, her marriage with Kameshwara. And so like this, there are different things that are mentioned. Then you have a few points, ahimsa, few good qualities that should be there in people. Ahimsa, or maybe you can say free will, determination, faith, and so on, that has been mentioned. Further, you have the legend of Parshurama. Now, Parshurama, basically, now Parshurama is one character which is quite favorite in all the Puranas. Sometimes his legend is mentioned in detail. So, Parshurama, what he does is, Parshurama, and mainly the, you can say the Brahmanda Purana highlights about this, that Parshurama was the one who was responsible in killing the thousand-eyed Kartyavira Arjuna. So that is the main story of Parshurama, which has been written. And finally, where Parshurama was born and so on. So for that, what happens is, almost you can say 37 chapters are given for to talk about the glories of Parshurama, his life stories, and so on. So once it so happened that Parshurama, as usual, the most popular story is Parshurama came with an encounter with Rama, and then further he also is a hero. Once it so happened that with the permission of his father, Parshurama, he visited his grandfather Raika, and he also visits his great grandfather. Then he visits Brigu. So like this, he goes till he finds out about his family. So Brigu, from there, Brigu is a Manasaputra of Brahma. Brigu is great grandfather, then Parashurama. Like this, he goes about to visit his own family lineage. And at that time, Brigu tells him that you pray to Lord Shiva and you get a lot of missiles and weapons from him. Accordingly, Parashurama does this. And Shiva, he disguises himself as a hunter and comes to test Parashurama. And at that time, and Parashurama shows his all his talents also. Shiva is pleased with him, and at that time, Shiva, he gives him many missiles. He tells about their knowledge and so on, and says that you can kill demons, but first you go on a pilgrimage, you perform penance, tapasya, and so on. And in that, what happens is Parashurama, he kills a tiger, it seems, in a Himalayan cave. Then he saves a Brahmin boy. Like this, there are different stories that are told in praise of Parashurama. Then, and the boy who was there is called Akrita Varana. Akrita Vrana. Akrita Vrana is the name of the boy who was saved by Brahmana. He was saved by Parashurama, and he became the permanent companion of Parashurama. And both of them then returned back to Jamadagni's hermitage, that is Parashurama's father's hermitage. Now, hence it so happened that now even Varanasi, this place was affected, or you can say continuously attacked by a dynasty of kings called the Haihaya kings. And there was one king, Kartyavira of Haihaya dynasty. He had also visited the hermitage of Jamadagni, and he got a very good welcome, a royal reception, and so on. And due to Jamadagni's cow was Kamadhenu. So now the Hayaya king who was there, this Kartavira, he tells his minister Chandragupta that somehow I also want this wish fulfilling cow Kamadhenu. And while Parshurama was away, Chandragupta he comes, the minister of Kartavira comes, and he tells him that I want to take away this cow. So somehow Parshurama they stop, and in that what happens? They stop, they fight against him, and so on. In this, what happens is Jamadagni is killed, and the Kamadhenu she flies in the air, and Chandragupta he returns with the calf to the king. Now Parshurama, what happens is now when all this incident happens, Parshurama is away. So while Chandragupta tries to take away Kamadhenu, Jamadagni stops for some time, tries to stop him, but ultimately he is killed. Parashurama returns, and it seems that she was shocked to see his father killed. And at that time, his mother Renuka Devi, the wife of Jamadagni, she was crying and lamenting at the loss of her mother. And it so happened that while she was lamenting, she was hitting her chest for about 21 times. That's how Parshurama decided that 21 times all the Kshatriyas will be killed, not even a single Kshatriya will be there. So then, next what happens is Brigu visits the hermitage of Jamadagni. Parshurama he consults God Brahma and says, somehow I'm going to kill this Haihaya king. Brahma tells go and meet first Lord Shiva. Parshurama goes to Lord Shiva. He again gets a secret of a lot of other missiles and weapons. Then with this Parshurama he goes to Agastya's hermitage. He listens to Krishna Premamrita. Like this different things he does. And finally what happens is he kills. As usual, when he goes there, Ganesha stops him, and at that time, Parshurama strikes at Ganesha. Also, his tusk is broken. Finally, Parshurama he kills uh, all this Kshatriyas 21 times. Okay, so this is the story of Parshurama that is there. Then you can say later additions that are made is you also have the Kerala Mahatmya and so on, because Parshurama is known to live in Kerala. Basically, he had separated the state of Kerala from the mainland, that is from the ocean. So that's how there are certain things that are mentioned with regards to the Purana, but these are all later additions that are there, not initially in the original Purana. Now next topic that comes is after the story, after the legend of uh, Parshurama, you have uh, a few other things that are covered. Mainly, you have in detail how the worlds are created, how the islands were created. So like this, there are different things that are told in the initial part of the Brahma Purana, of the Brahmanda Purana, how this world is created, how Brahma was born, how different the Prajapatis were born, the Rishis were born, then how ego came in, Mahat Tattva, this, that, everything that has been mentioned in detail. How different animals were created, fruits were there, colors were there. So all this rasas came in, rasa is juice. Then you have the birth of Daksha, that is Daksha is one of the Prajapatis. Like this, different references are mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana, in the initial part of Brahmanda Purana. Next is you have the story of Shiva that we discussed yesterday, the different parts of Shiva. So basically, in the recordings you can listen to that. Then Later, the Brahmanda Purana also highlights about, now basically Brahmanda Purana mainly talks about the creation of the world only in detail, because Brahmandam, the word itself says, so each and every small thing, how the universe is created, how heaven is created, how Brahmanda is created. So the same thing that is mentioned in all other Puranas, but Brahmanda Purana dedicates main, you can say many topics for this. Next is you have the topic of Sattva guna, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva is how these gunas came in. Sattva, everything is good. Rajas is mediocre, depending on the nature. Sometimes we are good, depending on the situation. Sometimes we show our evil nature also. And next, last is Pralaya. Last stage that is there is Tamas, or you can say evil nature. So basically, Rakshasas also. Now the section 2 that is there mainly, that so first 5 sections are the introductory part, the Purva Bhaga you can consider. Second section is called Anushangapada. Anushangapada is the section 2. On this first you have the description of different Manvantaras and Kalpas. So basically the story of Manu. Now the current is Vaivasvata Manvantara. Vaivasvata is the name of the Manu, Jambudvipe, Bharatavarsha and so on. So this has been mentioned in detail. Next is you have the knowledge about the world that is there, that is nothing but geography. So how you have 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, then geography of different continents, Jambu, Dvipa and so on, flora, fauna, people who are there, the different oceans, the seas and so on. This we have already seen in the previous Puranas, ocean of sugar cane juice, ocean of milk. So therefore I'm not repeating all that. The same thing has been mentioned even in the Brahmanda Purana. Now, the characteristics of each of these yugas has also been mentioned. In the Satya Yuga, everything was good. Krita Yuga, slowly people, there came elements like Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and so on. Dwapara Yuga, things became more difficult. Continuously calamities came. Best example, Krishna, right on the time, or even before he was born, calamities were striking. Kali Yuga, things are evil, but at the same time, things are good too. Only thing is, we have to be open. It seems that in the Kali Yuga, many people they take, many Upanyasakars also, they say that let's not always curse Kali Yuga. Some people say that, no, I'm born in Kali Yuga, what to do? Everything is bad around. He says that in all the yugas, always people felt that whatever, this is human nature. How much ever we are blessed with everything, still at the end of the day, man feels that everything that is happening around him is bad, or only all the problems that are coming and striking me, all that is bad only to me, right? So this is human nature, that's why human beings feel this way. But he says that in the Kali Yuga especially, what happens is, like certain people, what they say is, Kali Yuga, there are good things and bad things, but the thing is, bad things will be very evident, or we can notice bad things very easily, whereas good things are also there. It is on our side where you have to take up good things. The best example now, you have many things that are happening around us, right? There can be good, there can be bad, right? So basically, we are blessed with good people. We have got a good satsangam in the form of all of us. So this is something good. You look at this with a good approach, you're fine. Now, no, you don't want to take up this, but no, something everyone is talking about only bad news. There's a lot of sorrow, a lot of problems. You want to be involved in that? That is your choice, right? So everything that happens is in the Kali Yuga also, right? So basically, Kali Yuga is also good in itself. It's just that negative things or bad things will be highlighted everywhere, or that will be shown, that will become very evident. People also will get attracted towards that, but ultimately it's on us, it's in our hands to decide what exactly happens and to look at what is good. It's just a simple philosophy of life that is there. Let's not even call it as Kali, Satya, Treta, Dwapara. Everyday life also, good things, bad things come in, good people, evil people, whatever it is, everything happens. It's in our hands to decide how we have to be impacted. Someone tells me something, full day I'm just going to think about that and waste my day, or maybe I just ignore it. It's just a way of life. Someone will tell something, if someone speaks good about me, there'll be two people who speak evil about me, right? So it's just a way of life. If I just ignore and move about, that is my good thing, right? So it's completely in our hands how we take up things. Or if someone tells me something, if I take it in a good positive way as a feedback, use it, make good use of it, it will have a positive impact. But someone who, how dare he told me like this, who is he to tell me? If we keep thinking about this, is my own loss. So it's on our hands how to take up things. And one more thing in the Kali Yuga is, it is very easy to please the Lord. Just have to chant his names. Lord says unconsciously you do that, that also I'll consider as bhakti. This was not so in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. People had to do thousands of years of penance, people had to take up a lot of sacrifices, a lot of worship, pujas and so on. Kali Yuga, Bhakti Margam is very, very easy. So this has been described in the Brahmanda Purana. Next is you have the mention of life, how it started. So basically, slowly now after the Satya Yuga, what happens is slowly seasons started coming in, summer, winter, rainy. Then people population started increasing, so they needed some place to stay, where so they started building cities, towns, hamlets, and so on. Then you can say body parts started developing. Body parts, in a sense, body parts were already there, but people started knowing more about that. That is, okay, this is my ring finger, this is my middle finger. All this is mentioned in the first chapter of the Brahmanda Purana. So that is the reason how you can say, like, slowly people start getting to know about things, just like all of us also. Maybe initially when a child is very small, it's not aware, right? Oh, this is your ring finger, this is your thumb finger, we don't tell them. But now slowly that we grow, or even now also, if you see about our internal organs also, there might be many which we don't know the names also, right? But later, slowly in life, we get to know about all that. Next is you have the mention of different rivers, cities, and so on, natural elements that has been mentioned. Then you have the categorization of the society into four parts: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Then the different varna ashramas that has been mentioned: brahmacharya ashrama, grihastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, sannyasa ashrama. If all the people follow all their rules, all the rules that is there, then everything can be the world will be good. But then the thing that happens is people don't follow their own dharma. People will uh, you can say tease others or cause trouble to others. That's when all the problem arises. Next is you have the mention of the different shivas that we have already seen yesterday: Bhava, Sharva, their patnis, where they reside, and so on. Next is you have the story of the different sages who were born. So different sages were born. So first is Lord Narayana. From Lord Narayana, the lineage has started. Then, so the mention of different rishis has been mentioned. I'll just tell you the names of a few. So Smriti, she is the wife. She was a person. She was the wife of the two Angiras who were there. She gave birth to four children mainly. Two sons were Bharatagni and Kritiman, and their four daughters. They were very holy, and they were Shadavali, Kuhu, Raka, Anumati. These are these just names. If you want, you can note it down, and you also listen to the audio later. Next is Anasuya. She gave birth to five Atreyas, Dattathreyas. That is the sons of Atri. And she also gave birth to a daughter also called Shruti. So like this, different names of sages has been mentioned. Priyavrata, Yashodhara. These are all names of different queens who are mentioned, and how they also gave birth to Pulaha. Kshama gave birth to Pulaha. Pulaha is none but Pulastya, the ancestor of Ravana. Like this, the mention of different rishis has been mentioned. Then you have the rays of Agni that is mentioned. So Pavamana Agni, Pavaka Agni. So basically, what are these Agnis? How are they born? That is mentioned. So the fire of Devas, that is that Devas worship the fire called Havyavaha. Kavyavahana is the fire of the Pitrus. Sahasraksha is the fire of the Asuras. So basically, these are the three fires that are there with regards to the Devas, Pitrus, and Asuras. So like this, it is just the name of the fire that is given. Then the Gar Pavamana is basically, or you can say Garhapatya is a fire that is kept at homes, especially those who follow the Agnihotra and so on. These practices, for them, they will always maintain this fire in their houses. Today's times, little it becomes difficult to do all this, but like this, there are many, many fires that have been maintained by the Lord. Next is you have the nature of Kala that has been mentioned: time, Ritus, Masas, Ayanas, that is different seasons, months. Ayana is, you can say, 6 months. So basically, how the unit is given is 1 week. That is their first is you have ritus are the 6 seasons that are there. Masas are the different months. Then you have something called Parvans is nothing but tithis, or you can say this is the tithi. So today is Parvana, as we say, that's Parvans. Then 2 months make one masa. 2 fortnights, sorry, 2 pakshas. Paksha is a fortnight. Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha. 2 pakshas together make one masa. 2 masas together make one ritu. That's how we have Shad Ritu, 6 seasons, 2 months each. 3 ritus together make one Ayana. Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, 6 months. 2 ayanas together make one Varsha. So like this is the time measurement that has been told in the Brahmanda Purana. Next is you also have the reference of uh, Bhurloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, and so on. All this is told by Rudra. So Bhurloka is the first among all the three worlds. Then you have the earth, then you have the hell. Heaven is made up of uh, what happened? You can hear me, right? Alameluji, you're unmuting. Okay, I think by mistake. Okay, so basically, Bhurloka is heaven, and or you can say the first among all the worlds. There are seven heavens, seven hills, Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, and so on. Next, even the hills also Rasatala, Patala, Sutala, and then one earth that we have. So 14 worlds in all that we say, seven heaven, seven hill. Next is you have the Saptarishis mentioned that has been there. This just been mentioned. Now all this Suta is telling to the assembly of sages in Romaharshana. Next is you have the description of different continents and their subdivisions, how the world starts in. So Priyavrata, Dhruva Charitam, as we know from Dhruva, Priyavrata. So Uttanapada, Priyavrata. Dhruva's father Uttanapada, his brother was, so basically Dhruva's uncle was Priyavrata. From him started, he begetted children, and from that has started this world. And then Jambudvipa, Prakshadipa, like these names of different continents in detail has been mentioned. Then you have the length and extent of the earth, or you can say the description of Jambudvipa has been mentioned in chapter 15 of section 2 of Brahmanda Purana. In case you want to know about Jambudvipa, I'm telling you the number. It seems that Jambudvipa is very, very you can say very huge. It's glorious, and it has got, you can say, on all the sides it is surrounded by the sea. Then you have a few mountain ranges in that, and there are western and eastern oceans. That is nothing but the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. Next you have Himavan is actually covered with snow, and Hemakut is a parvata in the Himalayan ranges that is actually full of Hema. Heman is gold. Seems that in that mountain there was gold earlier. Then you also have Meru, who is there. Now, some people say that it's an imaginary mountain, some say it is there in the Himalayan regions. So, like this, there are different mountains that are there. Next is you have, and different kinds of animals live in uh, this place itself. And then this Haimavata, basically, in that now you in the Brahmanda Purana, in this Jambudvipa is actually you can consider today's Asian continent, not exactly the geography of today, that is of continent Asia will be matching, but little you can consider quite similar. Next is there are different animals of different kinds here. Then Haimavata is subcontinent is nothing but Bharata. So when we say Indian subcontinent, and then their name for that is Haimavata subcontinent, wherein you have the Himalaya, that is Himalayam samarabhya yavat Indu sarovaram tam deva nirmitam desham Hindustanam prachakshate or Bharata desham prachakshate. So that is where that land, that part of land which is there in between the Himalayan ranges and the Indian Ocean, that is known as a great line of Bharata. Next is, so in detail you have a lot of trees and mountain ranges, fruits, flowers, sprouts, and so on that has been mentioned, which are there here. You also have the Milky Ocean, it seems, and like this, it has been mentioned about the Jambudvipa. Next is further in chapter number 16, it seems that Suta says that the sages say, we wish to know more about Bharata Desha. You tell us something about the subcontinent Bharata, where these 14 Manus, Swayambhuva, and others were born. Now, one thing why we have to feel very, very proud, it's not just to glorify our own country, but then out of all this creation that has been mentioned, you have Jambudvipa, Lakshadweepa, mention of different continents, all the different gods, all the different Manus and so on have manifested only and only in Bharatadesha, not anywhere else. Of course, there might be other countries, other religions, they might have their own, you can say, manifestations and so on, but our country or our Desha has only manifested, or it only has, you can say, the credit, wherein all the 14 you have the Manus were born, various rishis were born, various great people were born, sages were born, and there are different temples that are there, good places to visit. The entire world has got, every country has got its own riches, but only in this place, or you can say God himself, great souls themselves have manifested in this Bharat Desha. Nobody told them to do so, it was not out of force or so, they themselves have manifested. And if today we have got a birth in Bharat Desha, we have to be very, very fortunate. That too in the that too in the form of human beings. That to someone, maybe out of crores of human beings who are living in Bharata Desha, we are maybe that one person who at least knows about our own scriptures, at least knows that, okay, I'm fortunate to be born in Bharata Desha. So we have to be only proud of this and be aware. So here you have the description of Bharata further, wherein now it says that this is the country wherein it believes in karma. That is, you do good things, you will enjoy good results. If you do evil things, it will lead to inauspiciousness. So this is somewhere where the subjects are called Bharatiyas. So that's how we get this name. This mention is there in the Puranas. Then you have people, it seems that they believe in moksha and so on. There are different 9 divisions of Bharatavarsha. They are separated by oceans and rivers. Now, here by 9 divisions is in those times what happens is, now what exactly are the 9 divisions? I'll just tell you that. When I say the subcontinent of Bharata, it doesn't mean today's geographical India. It was called first Indradvipa. Indradvipa is nothing but today's Andamans. Nagadvipa are the Nicobar. Then Tamraparani is Ceylon. Ceylon, I think in today's times, what you call that country? Anyone knows? Ceylon, mm, Sri Lanka. Yeah, Ceylon is actually Sri Lanka. Next, you have Varunadvipa. Varunadvipa was a country called Borneo. Now, what exactly is this in today's times? We have to Google. Borneo, uh, I don't know, maybe it is like you can consider like a Dutch country or so. That is there near. So it was also a part of Bharata Desha and those times. Maybe you can consider in the, you can say the borders of Bharata. That is this country called Borneo. And basically now from maybe Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka and such countries mainly, or even Burma, Malaysia and so on we had, or Malaya. Malaya is something but Malaysia, Malaya Dweepa. So Kaseruman was the name of this place called Malaya Dweepa. Malaya is nothing but today's Southeast Asia, that is Malaya. So basically, why these places were mainly known is because of trade purposes. Now, Sri Lanka was also mainly Ceylon, that used to call in those times, was mainly known for the trade of tea, T-E-A-T. So that's how tea came to India, and there are of course many other foreign invasions how tea came in. So like this, for mainly trade and business purposes, mainly these lands were known. So like this, there are different parts which were included in Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha is also called as Karma Bhumi because it believes in karma. So like this, you what exactly happens in Bharata, who are the people living and so on, that we will look at next time. Today we will stop here. You also have the different river beds that are mentioned, what is their names and so on, that we will have a look next week.